Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Let's take a look at the headlines. Strategic focus placed on developing competitiveness among local firms through placement on the stock market. Police officers in Arima now have a state-of-the-art police station. And CARICOM says it's ready for dialogue with the Dominican Republic to resolve its dispute with Haiti. Thank you for joining us. Police officers in Arima now have the tools needed to efficiently carry out their job. These tools are now all housed at the recently constructed state-of-the-art Arima police station.
2 years after construction began, the borough of Arima has a new state-of-the-art police station which will serve the burgesses of the area. The station, which is the first of its kind, was officially handed over on Wednesday by Prime Minister the Honourable Kamla Persad-Bissessar.
My government sees your safety not simply as a promise that must be fulfilled, but also as a right to which you are entitled, and my commitment remains to make our country safe again. It cannot be stressed enough that I will not allow a very small minority of lawless criminals to hold our country to ransom.
Member of Parliament for the constituency of Arima, the Honourable Roger Samuel, expressed his gratitude for the delivery of the police station and spoke of the benefits to the residents of Arima.
The commissioning of this police station is not just the idea of just for police work, but likewise it now enhances and it causes people to have a sense of security, a sense of belonging and a sense of attachment, so that we can work together with this wonderful service that we have here at Arima.
The Member of Parliament said a sense of security is priceless, and he called for a portion of the station to be used as a mediation centre. The modern Arima police station is equipped with the latest crime-fighting technological gadgets, offices, ID parade rooms with one-way mirrors, gym, library, dormitories, lecture and meeting rooms with audio-visual amenities and holding cells. The station is also designed with a generator and portable water storage to independently sustain the station for 3 days in the event of an emergency, coupled with an energy-efficient solar-powered water heater. There is also fire detection and suppression systems in place with 24-hour camera surveillance, which links back to the national security grid.
My government promised to restore safety to TNT. Today, we give this small but meaningful signal of just one of the ways we intend to fight this war and win that war against crime in your name, in the name of all citizens of Trinidad and Tobago.
Chairman of the Urban Development Corporation of Trinidad and Tobago, Jerlene John, said she was pleased to hand over the new police station, which was built on the site of its predecessor.
The first such facility to be delivered in UDCOT's first phase of 8 police stations out of an entire portfolio numbering 17. I'm also very pleased to announce that the new Piarco police station is also ready for handover, and commissioning of that facility has commenced. Comuto and Maloney police stations are due to be completed in December next month, whilst Libre, Oropouche, Brasso and Maruga are earmarked for January to April of 2014.
The chairman said the second phase of police stations to be conducted and delivered include Mathura, Matlat, Manzanilla, St. Joseph, St. Clair, Maracas St. Joseph, Besor Street, and in Tobago, Old Grange and Roxborough. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
Despite suspending the Dominican Republic's application for membership to CARICOM, the regional body says it is ready for dialogue with that state to resolve its dispute with Haiti.
Trinidad and Tobago and CARICOM will continue to work with the DR, our partners in the region, and at a wider international level towards a swift resolution of this matter. I take note of the communication which I received from President Danilo Medina this morning that the government of the DR will not deport any of the persons affected by the ruling of the Constitutional Court, and measures will be taken to ensure that no one is deported.
Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar says CARICOM expects the commitment by the Dominican Republic will be honored. She said the country must now show good faith.
CARICOM expects that these assurances by the Dominican Republic will be honored. CARICOM is prepared to engage the DR, but the government of the DR must be prepared to show good faith by immediate, credible steps as part of an overall plan to resolve this nationality and attendant issues in the shortest possible time.
Meantime, on talks of interference in a country's sovereignty or the doctrine of non-interference in the internal affairs of a country, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, says if the issue at hand touches extension humanity and where the ruling of the Internal Code offends international obligation, then in this case, the international is fundamental in the entire debate.
There's a philosophical issue as to the circumstances under which you can intervene, you can take part in another affair, so to speak. The second issue is that the Dominican Republic, as the distinguished Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago has so carefully outlined in her statement, has certain international obligations. Dominican Republic is a state party to several treaties, including those in the hemisphere. And you cannot have a national law which is taking precedence to that which you have solemnly signed as a treaty.
Felicia Wilson-Mon, News 4.
News 4 continues after the break. Stay with us. Broadening the scope in which small and medium-sized enterprises operate will play a major part in growth of the economy. This was the focus of the Finance Minister, the Honourable Larry Hawai's presentation during the annual Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Commerce Business Opportunities Conference. The minister says government has placed strategic focus on developing competitiveness among local firms through placement on the stock exchange.
Development of small and medium enterprises and placement on a local stock exchange will play a big part in boosting business in Trinidad and Tobago. Finance Minister Larry Hawai made the statement during the opening ceremony of BizOps hosted by the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Commerce. BizOps is geared towards improving the competitiveness of local firms and the country, while at the same time demonstrating government's commitment to increasing openness and transparency. Minister Hawai says taking this fair share approach will serve to develop further business partnerships.
A similar approach is being undertaken in the adoption of strategies for the development of the small and medium enterprises market on the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. Just this week, I have met with representatives from all of the business groups to discuss a way forward for the advancement of this initiative, and I am optimistic that before the end of the current fiscal year, we shall have at least our first listing of a small and medium enterprise on the stock exchange.
However, according to the Finance Minister, partnering with SMEs at the government level will see this sector take off in the right direction. He adds that ensuring the best procurement practices are put to use among state agencies, as well as their compliance with these policies, will aid in the growth of SMEs.
Apart from this particular initiative, there are already a number of rules, guidelines, and laws governing the state sector that ensures a level of transparency and accountability. These include the performance monitoring system, the central audit unit established within the Ministry of Finance to monitor the activities of state enterprises, and the internal audit manual prepared by the Treasury Division of the Ministry. In addition, we have placed internal auditors within ministries to examine the records of ministries and departments in order to ascertain the extent of compliance with established policies and procedures as established by the Treasury.
The minister says strategic focus has been placed on upholding and increasing this country's rankings in the Global Competitiveness Index and Global Corruption Perception Index. He notes that when this takes place, business and investment will begin to increase locally.
The Open Budget Survey 2012 found that Trinidad and Tobago increased its budget transparency score from 33 points out of 100 in 2010 to 38 points in 2013 on account of improved citizen access to budget information. In the context of fighting corruption and its impact on the business environment, the World Bank's Doing Business 2014 report found that Trinidad and Tobago is one of 3 Caribbean economies that improved its business regulatory environment for small and medium-sized businesses over the past year. Further, in the context of revenues for natural resources, Revenue Watch's Resource Governance Index ranked Trinidad and Tobago 10th out of the 58 countries surveyed for publishing timely, regular reports on oil and gas production, prices, and exports, as well as the Sound Heritage and Stabilization Fund governance.
BizOps TT Conference seeks to showcase business opportunities available in the public sector. The Chamber believes by simultaneously increasing competitiveness and promoting transparency will in the process pioneer a new approach towards good governance. Kimberly Calawan, News 4.
Planning and Sustainable Development Minister Dr. the Honorable Bohendradat Tiwari says government will support the call for regulating election campaigning. The matter came up when a private motion was laid in the upper house.
Government is backing the call made by an independent senator to set up a parliamentary joint select committee on election campaign financing. During the debate on the private motion laid in the upper house, Planning and Development Minister Dr. Bo Tiwari stated the support for reform of the campaign finance system, as there was a need to restore confidence and trust among citizens when it came to politicians elected to represent them at the parliamentary level.
The difficulties that other countries are having and the need for maturity and thought and collaborative thinking in order to build a system that everybody can enjoy. Because at the end of the day, countries may be governed by political parties who become government in office, but at the end of the day, the governance process is for everybody who lives in the country. And I want to say, let us go forward and try to find a solution. This government, the People's Partnership Government, will support the process.
The minister made a claim that while party transparency is complex in Trinidad and Tobago, addressing this issue right now is critical if it is to ensure balance between policies made by government, influenced by the private sector, as well as the dominance of business among state agencies conducted with party contributors.
It is possible in such a situation for such a political party becoming the government for 30 years and occupying the control of a status economy in which private sector space is largely a challenge. It is very possible for the private sector spaces to be opened on the basis of rent. And I want to say that that is a factor we must not ignore in the Trinidad and Tobago politics.
Minister Tiwari referred to the United States, where the public is aware of who are the donors to what parties as a basis for making their electoral decision. The minister also drew examples from around the world where election campaigning was governed by laws that restricted the amount donated by private companies and the role of advertising during the election period.
In the United Kingdom, for instance, they have limits on what you can give. So a donor can only give up to a certain limit. In Norway, government funding for political parties constituted 74% in 2010. And in Norway, you do not have any radio ads and no television ads. In India, you have no campaign rules and regulations, so that things happen under the table, so to speak. And therefore, there is no way of figuring out the extent to which that system is, what can I say, a free-for-all.
He says here in Trinidad and Tobago, greater measures need to be put in place to ensure campaign transparency is provided at all times, so that citizens can make the correct electoral choices.
I think the issue of how much money is important is important. How much money is spent is important. I think the issue of who gives the money and who provides the funding is important. I think the issue of accounting for the money received is important. I think that the right of the public to know is important. I think an open book approach to the matter of campaign financing is important for the development of our democracy.
Earlier this year, during the ceremonial opening of Parliament, His Excellency President Anthony Carmona made a call for campaign finance reform. This was later endorsed by the Elections and Boundaries Commission, EBC. In recent months, the government embarked on a public consultation on constitutional reform, which also includes governance of political financing. Kimberly Ramkalawan, News 4.
Sport is next after the break. Four-time Olympian George Bovell III has been competing against the world's best in pools all over the globe for more than a decade. This longevity has made for some interesting stories throughout the years. Bovell shared one of his fondest with Owen Cunningham.
Story you'll give your grandchildren from your competing?
From my competing?
Against a rival?
Yeah, so in 2009, I did not make the final in the 100-meter freestyle at the World Championships. I had trained very hard for it. And I was thinking that, I really could not continue to justify the amount of energy I put out and time and sacrifice if I couldn't even make the final. Wasn't having a very good meet at that point. And then the 50 freestyle came, and I qualified second for the semifinals. So into the semifinals now, this was the year when they had the big bodysuits. Yeah. And a suit took 40 minutes to put on. And I'm in the ready room for the semifinal, and I'm leaning forward, and my suit ripped along the seam. And the suit just ripped all the way up from underneath me, all the way up to my belly. And I was naked in front of everybody. And my competitors actually stood up and refused to go out to swim the race, to wait on me, because the competition was run on a TV schedule, so it could be for prime time in America. And they refused to go out. We said, we're not going out without George. And one of my rivals, friendly rivals, Colin Jones, held up a towel for me to change behind. Somebody had an extra suit, they let me. So in this ready room, I was now rushing to put on the suit, and I got it on. People were helping me, and it was one of the older version of the suits, so I was at a disadvantage. And I swam, came out there. I was, I had this race plan that was everything was supposed to happen at how I wanted it to happen at this place at this time in the race, and that whole plan went out the window. I was so flustered, couldn't hold my breath either. I remember taking out 5 breaths in this race. Touched the wall. I saw I was 6th in my heat, so it's the first semifinal. I was only 8 qualified. I was pretty sure that was the end of my swimming career. Done. What a terrible way to end it. And then the second semifinal swam, and someone told me, George, you tied for 8th. So in exactly 1 hour, I had to go back and swim against this Hungarian man for a spot in the final. So I borrowed a suit because my suit had ripped, warmed down, was on the table getting a shakeout, and I knew at this race, this was it. If I make that final, I'm still in the sport. If I don't make the final, can't justify it, and I'm out. So I came out there probably, as my back was against the wall, the most excited and most pumped I've ever been. And I threw down a time that was the 4th fastest ever, smashed the guy, cruised through to the finals. And the time I did would have come second in the final. And for that day, it just really stood out that I had the World Championship record in the evening, and in the morning, in the afternoon, it looked like my career was over. So at that point I said, yeah, there's really a future for me in this. Continuing to get better, let's look towards the Olympics.
Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sport.
When we come back, TT Food Card helps families across Trinidad and Tobago. Stay with us. The temporary food card is helping families across Trinidad and Tobago rise up out of poverty by ensuring that they meet their basic needs. A number of residents of central Trinidad can now be sure of a Merry Christmas having received their long-awaited food cards.
As of July 2013, a total of 42,202 persons were enrolled in the TT Card program. Since its inception, 8,698 clients have successfully graduated off the program by increasing their household income. On Tuesday, more than 300 residents of Caroni Central, Couva North and Couva South received their temporary food cards during a special distribution ceremony at the office of the Member of Parliament for Couva North. The Honourable Member of Parliament noted that the distribution of the food cards fall in line with the mandate of her government.
One of the mandates of our government, ladies and gentlemen, is to, of course, work on poverty alleviation. And this is a sure way of ensuring that our people rise out of poverty by targeting those who really need it.
The recipients were informed of the ways they could go about using the 2-year card, as well as which merchants would accept this form of payment. The Honourable Member of Parliament for Couva South called on the card holders and business owners to ensure that the cards were used strictly for its intended purpose.
Do not use it to purchase things that are not needed for you and that of your family's benefit. And also, I appeal to the business community to ensure that when persons come who are the holders of these cards come into their business places, they ensure that these cards are being utilized to purchase goods and services so that it could really be of assistance to the person who are holders and who needed to alleviate their sense of poverty and to bring about a sense of what I would call joy to their families during their Yuletide seasons.
Dr. the Honourable Glenn Ramadar Singh listed conditions that governed the eligibility that one would have in accessing the food card.
Your children must be in school. You must have immunized them by the Ministry of Health and given them their shots. You must be looking to retrain yourself or become employed if you are not employed. You must be showing us evidence that you are trying to do that. And therefore, your house must also be clean and safe for your children. And therefore, if it's not, we help you with the housing grant. If you don't have electricity where you live, you ask you have that problem? Look, right, well, talk to your MP, and through the NSDP program, I'll tell you how to solve it. We will be able to run water and lights because you are. All right, we will handle that. So you will be able now to apply for other benefits. That's the point. But if you don't follow these things, every 3 months, they are going to do an audit and a review on your case. Officer is going to visit you. And if you're not fulfilling those requirements, it is quite possible your card will be deactivated.
Following the 2-year use of the card, clients would be assessed on their social standing and whether or not the card assisted in alleviating the burden that a lack of financial resources had on them. If it is found that the family is still having trouble in achieving a good living standard, developing new skills, enhanced careers, and a stronger ability to achieve gainful employment, it may be extended to ensure its purpose is fulfilled. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barreto. Thank you so much for joining us.